Hey everybody, my name is Joseph Chase, and this is my project Tillandsia Paradise, and it is a community-driven air plant database and website. It was advised by Dr. Shen, that's me over in the bottom left with my cat Scrappy, and over at the right is a xerographica with an X, and that is my favorite kind of air plant. So let's get started. So what is my project? Well, at its core, it's just a website and a database of different kinds of air plants. And the website displays what is in the database. It has both desktop and mobile website versions, so it'll look good on any size screen, even like giant screens. It provides information on specific kinds of air plants, along with like care instructions for air plants in general, or very specific kinds depending on the plant. And it allows for users to create and sign into their own accounts. So what technologies did I use for it? The biggest one would definitely be Bootstrap, and it's a framework that allows you to create responsive websites. So using Bootstrap, you get kind of these custom fields, and by putting your website's content in those fields, when the screen becomes too small to display everything, the fields will kind of rearrange themselves, sort of like blocks, building blocks. So if you have a lot of wide content and then the screen suddenly becomes very small, Bootstrap takes care of moving that stuff around for you so that it'll look good on any size screen. And that's primarily how you develop mobile sites. I used MariaDB for the database, and PHP to pull information from the database and put it in. And that's because in the database course at Plymouth State, those are the two technologies we learned to use. So that was what I was most comfortable using. There's a little bit of JavaScript in the website, and that's mostly being used by Bootstrap. And I do want to expand on it more in the future, but that's coming in a later section. And the website was built with HTML and CSS styling. So basically, how does it work? I used PHP to kind of handle the user accounts. So pages that require accounts or a person to be signed into an account will make sure that somebody's actually signed in before it'll load the page. Otherwise, it brings them to the sign-in page. So that way, people can't kind of cheat and go to a page that they don't have access to. And each page for the plant retrieves info from the database and will display it. So instead of like having to type out each individual plant's page, where you would like go in and manually enter all the stuff, it'll just pull the plant from the database that already has that stuff in it and display it. So what were some problems I had when building this? Bootstrap renders some stuff differently in Chrome than it does in Firefox and Edge, which is primarily what I use, Firefox. So figuring out why Chrome was like, and there's an example of it over in the picture on the right, why Chrome was adding kind of this dot and like making the bar way too big up top, that was kind of a pain. I had to go through some forums to see like why Chrome did it. The navbar would sometimes clip content on a mobile device. That was a Bootstrap issue I had to look into, and it was just more my fault than Bootstrap's. I had to prevent users from accessing privileged pages. That was something I've never had to deal with before. So that was kind of a new experience learning that. PHP variable names wouldn't display correctly all the time for the database. So when it was supposed to pull a particular plant, sometimes it would just get the name wrong. And adding a plant would sometimes fail. And I couldn't figure out what was doing it. But by changing the type from just changing the type of field it was in the database ended up fixing this issue. I think it might have been a length requirement that I wasn't aware of. And then the COVID-19 situation kind of, it put this project on a back burner for a while, where I just wasn't actively working on it because I had other stuff going on. So what did I learn from all of this? I learned a lot about Bootstrap in particular for responsive web design. And it's something I'm definitely going to use in the future because I had a lot of fun with it, and the stuff you can do with it is incredible. It's a really versatile kind of framework. I learned a lot about just kind of how PHP actually works. I feel like when I learned PHP in the database course, it's sort of just kind of, yeah, just type this in and then it works. But when I was doing this project, I had to figure out, okay, why does it work that way and why doesn't it work like this? And creating a logout script and then using PHP to keep users signed in as they navigate through different pages and being able to log them out without the whole thing breaking was a new thing. And that took me a while to do, actually. So I'm happy that ended up working. And now I know how to do it for the future. So I'm not done with the project. There's a lot more stuff I want to do with it in the future. Like, I want admins to be able to kind of edit and approve the stuff users submit just from the web page. Because right now they have to... Right now, like I'm the only admin. I'll open up the database in a GUI and then edit and approve stuff from there when I want to be able to do it just from the website. So that bit is coming soon, hopefully. I want to find a JavaScript library to pull statistical data and display it in a nice kind of friendly way. I didn't have time to explore any libraries or learn how to use them. I want to make the database page searchable, because right now it's just kind of listing off the stuff in a row. There's no way to kind of filter through plants by letter or something, or location. But as it's not a big deal right now because there's only 5 or 8 plants or so. But as it expands, it's going to have to be easier to navigate. There's an issue when I had people try to upload images to the database. I think that's more because of how I was hosting it on Turing. It has particular permissions and stuff you can't do with it. So stuff that should have been working just was breaking. So in addition to that, I need to move it to a proper domain. So something other than the Turing site. And now I'm going to show you a demo of the site. Alright, so this is the website, Tillandsia Paradise. The link up here is kind of janky, but that's because it's hosted on Turing, and that was just kind of ease of use on my end. I do want to move it to a proper domain name soon. But let's just kind of explore the site a bit, so I'm just going to explain the pieces. So up top here, we have kind of a navigation bar, and this is something that Bootstrap does really well. So you can have a bar up the top of your site that stays as you scroll through. And up here we have some links to the other pages. So right now we're on the home page. There's a care guide, a stats page, which currently doesn't have anything added to it. It's something I'm still working on. And then the actual database. And then over on the far right, we have accounts. So, and then all the buttons down here are kind of the same up here, but just another place to get to it. So let's kind of explore each part. I'll show user accounts first. So let's say you're a new user. You can view the database without creating an account, but let's say you the plant you want to add isn't here. You just want to add your own. Well, you can click Submit to Database here, or click on Accounts. They will both bring you to the login page. And if you don't have an account, you can click Sign Up Now, and it'll bring you to this page to register with a username and then the password. Since I already have an account and my browser is filling it in for me, I can just go and hit Log In. And now I'm signed in as JRC1041, that's my username, and I have a logout button up here. But now I can submit to the database. I can fill out this form of what I want added and submit it, and that will go straight to the database. And then an admin can approve it, and then it'll have its own page in the database. But let's just log out of that for now so I can show you the other pages. So we're back at the home page. So we have the care guide, which is kind of just in general, how do you care for air plants? There's general rule that's true of most plants, but particular ones will have particular needs. So that's outlined in their database entry. We have the stats page, which again is currently under construction because I didn't get a JavaScript library working in time. And then we have the actual database. So let's just click View Database. So these are the plants that are currently in. This one isn't actually an air plant, but it's one my advisor, Dr. Shen, added to make sure the site was working. And I approved it as an admin just so you could see that, it has its own page now and it's working. He didn't give me an image to put in, so I just kind of left that bit blank. But all the description and stuff he put in for it did end up working. So let's do one that's more fleshed out and an actual layer plant. So the Xerographica is my favorite one. So over on the right side, you get an image of the plant. You have the plant name here, the scientific plant name here. Most air plants will just have Tillandsia in front of the name. And then you have a section for the description. You have the plant's location, plant care notes, and just kind of extra notes in general, if users want to add that. And all this information is being pulled from the database. So the template for each plant stays the same. So let's head back to the database and, we'll click bulbosa. So they all kind of look roughly the same, but the image and all the content changes based on the plant's name. So in the database, I have the plant's name and then, sections for all these little bits. And on the code side, all I have to do is change one name. So let's say I have, my template, I just type in bulbosa, and then on the site, it'll autofill in all the stuff matching bulbosa in the database. So that's a great time saver and makes it more dynamic that way and easier on my end to add the plants. So that's kind of what you have in the database. And I mentioned I did this in Bootstrap, so it's responsive. So let me just show you guys an example of that. So if I just head here, I can just make this window small. And you can kind of see that the nav bar up here became a drop-down menu, and the stuff kind of stacked on top of each other, and you can see it sort of switches when you drag it. So that makes sure that no matter how big or how small your screen is, you'll be able to see stuff displayed properly. So this is great on mobile devices. Let's say your phone's that wide. You can still see everything. It's stacked on top of each other. You can scroll down on your phone, scroll back up. You can still get to all the stuff up here. And that's basically what responsive web design is, and Bootstrap allowed me to do that. And yeah, that's basically the project. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.